Alex Smith is retired. Alex Smith is retired, drafted first overall in 2005. He retires as the reigning comeback player of the year in the National Football League. And interestingly enough, that is how he goes into retirement, with that as his legacy. It is remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable in this league, this remarkable league of men, and remarkable league of players who put it all out on the line. Every single snap could be your last. That's the way it goes in the NFL. Obviously, all sport and sports is that way, but in the NFL, the contact sport of all contact sports here in North America, that is a way of life. Never know when your last snap can change your life, good or bad. Never know. Yep. Always one snap away from playing in the NFL, certainly at the quarterback position. You're always one snap away. And Alex Smith is the personification of all of that. Didn't think that's what his legacy would be when he was drafted first overall in 2005, which, interestingly enough, was the first draft that I hosted for NFL Network.
How many ago was that?
That was 16 ago. This will be my 17th. But that was one that we did, and it was the first time that we covered every single pick, albeit it was in our studios in Los Angeles. 06 was the first draft that we covered in person. But there I was on the set of NFL Total Access, which was essentially covering the draft pick by pick for the first 3 rounds in that first day of the draft. And first overall was, in fact, Alex Smith, even though Aaron Rodgers, Cal Bear, and Chico, California resident, right there in 49ers country, was sitting right there. And it was Alex Smith, drafted by at the time, Mike Nolan coached San Francisco 49ers. Guy coming out of Utah. Okay, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was a Pac-12 at the time, and Utah wasn't even part of the Pac-10 at the time. So it's a different time. And Alex Smith was drafted out of Utah, coached by Urban Meyer. That's how long ago it was. And there was a big to-do about that. Kid from Utah going to the San Francisco 49ers when somebody who had just beaten USC, which is what Aaron Rodgers liked to do with Cal. And Aaron sat in the draft room for as long as he did, and that was the story of the draft. How long Aaron Rodgers waited, not the fact that Alex Smith was a number 1 overall drafted quarterback. Normally, that is all about that guy, but it was more about Aaron Rodgers waiting. And then Rodgers and Smith attached at the hip, and then Alex Smith finally getting into the playoffs with the 49ers as Aaron Rodgers was finally trying to get on the field with Brett Favre standing there in front of him, sitting there in front of him in Green Bay, and the two of them attached at the hip until Rodgers kind of detached and then went to the Super Bowl and won it and started winning MVP awards, while Alex Smith finally gets the coach that was ready to unlock him and get him to the playoffs in Jim Harbaugh, and then Smith gets hurt, and in comes Colin Kaepernick. Yes, kids. In comes Colin Kaepernick, and he's the one who takes the 49ers to the Super Bowl. He's the one who does take Jim Harbaugh and the 49ers to the Super Bowl while Alex Smith watches, and that is how his career essentially began to take shape. The first overall pick who watched another quarterback take his team to where a first overall quarterback normally takes his team. Happened again once Kaepernick was the guy in San Francisco, and Alex Smith winds up in 2013 in Kansas City. He's the guy that the Chiefs hope can be the first overall drafted quarterback to take the Chiefs to the promised land where they had not been since Super Bowl IV. Instead, he watches Patrick Mahomes get drafted while he does the professional thing, fully knowing that somebody has just been drafted in the top 10, traded up to go get in the draft. We all know that if that happens this time around in this year's draft, whichever quarterback that is sitting there as a veteran, time's ticking, a.k.a. Jimmy Garoppolo in the 2021 draft. We don't know who number 3 overall is going to be just yet. We'll talk about it again with Todd McShay and Mike Florio. But we know whoever it's going to be starts the clock on Jimmy Garoppolo right away. And Jimmy Garoppolo is already, we've been mentioning in the role of Alex Smith this year for the 49ers, knowing that they have a chance to win it all with Garoppolo, with this veteran, but knowing there's a rookie quarterback who's going to be pushing. And it's your job to not only win, but to coach this kid up in the film room, in the quarterback room, so he can take the reins, not you. He did that. Mahomes, we all know, is now the face of the NFL. And Alex Smith, in that Super Bowl that the Eagles and the Patriots played in, got traded that very week. Mm-hmm. That very week. He was on our show in Minnesota saying, I don't know what's going to happen. And there were talks going down. And as soon as he left, it was made official. Going to the Washington football team. Although at the time it was known something else. And then he goes there, and we all know, once again, we all know in his second season there, fades back to pass, J.J. Watt comes in, takes him down. We've seen quarterbacks sacked. Alex Smith has been sacked multiple times in his life, hundreds of times in his life. This one was unique because it snapped his leg damn near in half. 19 surgeries later, all this conversation about can he come back? Will he come back? Everybody thought, well, that was a heck of a career. That snap and what followed is essentially what we're going to be talking about Alex Smith forevermore. What he did to come back from that injury, what he did to get back from that injury, what he did once he came back from that injury is what we'll be talking about forevermore. That's how we'll remember Alex Smith, is a guy who had the opportunity, then lost the opportunity multiple times, was a professional throughout his entire career, watching others get the opportunity that he helped set up too, that he also helped set up too. But it wasn't him. And then when football and circumstances seems to bring the curtain down on him, he seized an opportunity, which nobody thought was possible and nobody thought he would actually take, which is to try and come back from a shattered leg. And then he does. That's what we'll be talking about. The opportunity he saw that nobody else saw coming. The opportunity that he took that nobody else thought he should take. And the one that allowed him to try it one more time and lead his team to the playoffs, which is what he did. And I know it wasn't above 500. I get it. But the Washington football team from mid-November all the way through, when Smith got the opportunity to start because everybody else in front of him could not stay healthy. He was the healthy quarterback Washington turned to, and he was the one who started putting the football team on the straight and narrow, and he was the one who marched into Dallas and won on Thanksgiving Day. He was the one who marched into Pittsburgh and handed an undefeated team, the last undefeated team of the 2020 season, its first loss. He was the one. Taylor Heineke's the one who got the start in the playoffs. And I'm sure there's a story behind that as to why he got it. But Alex Smith is the one who did that, and he's the one who earned a Comeback Player of the Year award in 2020. And that's how we'll remember him, is a guy who never gave up, and a guy who had to sometimes cede the stage to others and was professional throughout. And I say to him, it's been a pleasure watching him, covering him, and on the occasions when we've spoken, knowing him. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.